Yep, looks like we are live. Looks like, okay, yep. All right. Yep, looks like we are live. All right. Welcome everyone to the 39th episode of Goddess Spotlight with Liaserenityrose. I'm your host, Leah. And of course, my guest for today is Badnik Mechanic.
Hello.
All right. As I put in the pin messages, if you have any questions for Badnik Mechanic, you are more than welcome to put your questions in the live stream chat. All right, let's get started on this Q&A. All right, Badnik, here is my first question for you. Like, tell us about how you got started on your YouTube channel. Like, pretty much just tell us your backstory.
Oh God. So yeah, this is kind of weird because if I answer that question literally, I think I started my YouTube channel in 2006, and this was at a time when content creation on YouTube was a very, very strange thing, as in no one really knew make weird music videos. Like I would take clips from Sonic trailers, clips from Sonic cartoons that were uploaded, and just like make little fun music videos to them, just because nobody else really knew what to do with YouTube at the time. And it was quite fun actually. It taught me, even just doing that just taught me basic video editing, and also just the whole idea of syncing up music to what you actually see happening on the screen. And then I kind of got into doing unboxing videos because there was a time when unboxings were incredibly popular, and I was like, well, I'm buying all this cool Sonic merch anyway, I might as well do some unboxing videos of that. And that was fun. It kept me going for a while. But there was a period, and it was about it was well over 10 years ago now, when I was doing the unboxing videos. I always had this thought of, I really want to do a really good documentary on something, and I think it was on like the Sonic at Alton Towers video that I ended up doing. That was my first one. It was something that I'd always wanted to do, but it was a case of I don't really have the time or the desire to do that kind of thing. And what happened is there was a point in my I can't quite remember when it was. It was fairly recent. It was around the time that I uploaded the Sonica Alton Towers video, the documentary style video I did. I want to say 2019, but I think it was actually earlier than that. But anyway, whatever. I was at a really, really low point in my life. I'm not going to go into the details, but things were quite bad, and brain went to some places that you don't want your brain to go to. And nothing was really helping, and what I ended up doing was I just started doing small bits of what I would call work. So I made myself a little website with my university work on, and I was feeling a little bit better. And I did another worky related project, and I was just feeling a little bit better. And I started to think, well, I've always wanted to do this like documentary style video. Why don't I write a script for that and see how I feel? And it was like, yeah, okay, doing this work stuff is kind of giving me a focus and, you know, making me feel a little bit better. And then I basically started to make the video of it, and I uploaded it, and it did really well. Like most of my unboxing videos at the time, they would get like between if it was really good, I'd be lucky to get like say 300 views, and if it was like average, it'd be like just 100. This thing instantly did, I think it was 300 views, and it went even higher than that within its first week. It was my most popular video, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed working on it. I enjoyed the research of it. And looking back on it, it is a really terrible video. Like, the editing's not great. It's very basic, and the audio is just terrible. But it was kind of like the project I needed to sort of help drag me out of this hole, which I later realized didn't fully drag me out of this mental hole that I was in. Yeah, it took a lot longer than just doing on video, which happened to do really well. But yeah, that was kind of the thing. Like, I was sort of thinking, well, I spent a long time writing for the Sonic Stadium, and there was all this really cool, old, obscure history that not many people knew the story about. And I thought, well, why don't I turn that into like mini documentaries? And people seem to really enjoy that, so that's what I did. But whilst I was doing it, there was something else that sort of stuck in my mind, and this is kind of the direction that my channel is going in now, and it's probably where my channel's going to go from now on. Like, I always had a bit of a knack for writing reviews on video games. Like, if you look at my old reviews on the Sonic Stadium, they're quite long. Like, they're some of the longest articles that the Sonic Stadium has, and they're they're quite incredibly detailed, and like they're really, really detailed too. And there's a reason why one of them is, which I won't get into. But I kind of always had this mantra of, look, if you want to try and review a video game, you should give like tons of detail so people can really understand why you feel the way you do about something. And I kind of felt I really want to do that with video game reviews, like video versions of that. And I thought, well, why is no one really doing like deep dive analysis type videos on Sonic games? And okay, yeah, that's a bit egotistical of me. There are people that do that, but not many. And I kind of feel that some of them don't really give you that extra deep, detailed analysis of stuff. Like, very few people do. Like, I could probably name like maybe 2 people, maybe 3, that kind of do what it is I'm talking about or thinking about and trying to do myself. But the vast majority of reviews on Sonic games are not, they're not great. They're kind of surface level stuff. But it's like, no, I think this is like a thing that we kind of haven't had in the Sonic community for a long time now. Like, yeah, you can get reviews of Sonic games, and people will debate whether the review is a good one or not, but it's always really surface level. Like, you don't really get deep dive analysis into why this Sonic game is designed this way, or what effect it's having on us as a player. And we certainly are not very good as a community at trying to articulate why we feel the way we do about playing these video games, and whether it's good or bad. And I kind of felt, why am I not doing videos like that? And there was basically 2 reasons. At the time, I just did not have the equipment to do it well. Like, I thought, yeah, I could just take other people's footage from YouTube, but that's going to be really difficult to sync up what it is I want to talk about with what I want to do. And it was also a case of, did I really have the confidence to do this? And I think doing all the history videos certainly gave me the confidence. And since I kind of upgraded my equipment in the time I was doing that, like got a proper microphone, invested in an actual capture card. It's not a great capture card, but it's a capture card and it works, and I can get my own footage. I figured, yeah, let's start doing the game analysis stuff and let's see what I can do. So yeah, that's kind of the long drawn out answer to that question.
Very intriguing, yeah. Like, sometimes you have to like think outside of the box when coming up with like video content. Like, because as you said, yeah, I agree with you. Back in the day when YouTube, was in its like early days, like people just like made like music videos or unboxings. Yeah, that I can attest to. Yeah, back in the early days of YouTube, everyone, for those who don't know, yeah, it's either like music videos or unboxings were usually the more popular video content. But yeah, like I do agree, because yeah, I didn't see any analysis like videos of like analyzing Sonic games at a deeper level, than just the surface level.
Well, I'll give you like an example, and I'm not calling out any content creators like this. Like there are some content creators that do this, and they've essentially made a career out of it. And yeah, that's great if they're doing that and there's an audience for that. But for me, it's kind of I want something more from what I'm watching. Like, let me give you an example. How many times have you seen a video that will be something like, here is my Sonic Generations analysis or my Sonic Generations retrospective. Here's how the video starts. Just stop me if you've seen this kind of video before. Hey guys, welcome to my retrospective on Sonic Generations. For the first 10 minutes, I'm going to tell you the plot of the video game. For the next
Yeah.
for the next 1 minute, I will say the controls are tight. And that's pretty much the depth of the analysis. Like it will be what they'll do is they'll recount the plot of the of whatever game it is they're reviewing, and it's not just Sonic. Like I've seen loads of videos across different franchises like Silent Hill, Fallout, even something like say Call of Duty or the Yakuza games, just any, you name it, any game. It will always start off with, oh, I'm going to recite the plot. And yes, I've also done videos like that, but that only gets you so far. And then they'll probably say, oh, I think the controls are tight, or the level design is fun and enjoyable. There are multiple pathways. And it's like, yeah, these are all points you're making, but why is it a good thing or a bad thing? What are you saying here? You're saying you like this stuff, but I really don't understand why you like it or dislike it. Like, why do you think multiple pathways in this video game is a good thing, whereas multiple pathways in this video game isn't a good thing? Why are the controls good, bad? What tell me something. Please let me think about this video game, And I kind of feel that there's not many content creators, especially in the Sonic community, that are doing that. And I guess you could probably say this is true for a lot of other franchises as well. Like the big thing, I love watching videos about the Silent Hill series, and I could probably name you 2 videos that I think have given a legitimately good analysis of those games, where I've gone away and it's radically changed my thoughts about how I interpret those games, like on a literary level as well as like a gameplay level. Yet the majority of times I see videos like that, all they do is they just tell you the story of what happened, and then maybe throw in some personal emotional responses. Like the big one that I always hear is, "Oh, this game, it didn't do well with critics, but it means so much to me." It's like, what does that say? That doesn't say anything. Like you're not telling anybody anything like that. All you're doing there is you're getting cheers from people who agree with you. Nobody's going away thinking about what it is they've heard. It's just popcorn for people that already agree with you, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I know, it's basically like you're not giving us the reason why you think, this is a positive thing for the game. Yeah, and like you said, it kind of just feels like you're just reading just a general game review. Like you're not really giving us the full details of, oh, why you hate this in the game, or why you think this was a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, even written video game reviews, they very rarely go into that major detail, or they'll just home in on one specific point and go into big detail about that, and then that's the thing that becomes the discourse of that person's review for the next week. And the irony is there'll be other reviewers which have said a similar thing but in less points, which in less detail, that supports what that person said. But yeah, it's kind of this lack of detail, and I honestly think that if you had more videos within whatever video game community it is you're a part of, or even more written articles that attempted to do this kind of deep dive analysis, like even if you disagreed with it, and this is kind of a big thing I always say, I don't care if somebody watches my video, dislikes it, and says, I hated everything you said, I disagree with it completely. Because if they've watched the entire video, there is no way they're not going to think about what it is they've just watched. Like, even if they say, I disagree with that completely, because you can't. Like, it's impossible. You cannot go away from watching anything all the way through and not think about what it is you've heard or seen. So you are going to think about that, and that's how I kind of think that you change people's minds in the long run, or you help people understand what it is they're feeling about something, or why it is they're responding to media and video games in the way that, you know, they might not be able to articulate. Like, even if they still disagree with me, they might now be able to explain why they disagree with me in the long run, you know, in a better way. And if I see that thought, I'm going to probably think about that myself, and it kind of tests my own thoughts and beliefs on that video game too. And this has happened to me in the past. Like, somebody made a really good argument as to why Big the Cat is actually a really awesome character in Sonic Adventure. And I looked at that game again and I was like, oh my god, this person is right. And then I started to see all this other stuff as well about that character, and that's why I now love Big the Cat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But because like at least if like a person gives you like the valid points and starts listing, oh, this is what they do in the game, you know, you know, it really starts to change your perspective. Like, oh, this character is actually actually pretty great. And because this other person like gave me their valid points, you know, and solid evidence, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
the big thing I would say is you kind of have to frame it in a way that at least gets people thinking about what it is
mhm.
you're saying, which is like the whole when people say stuff like oh, I like this game, or oh, this game means a lot to me. It means a lot to me from my childhood. Oh, my childhood memories are coming back, you know. And it's like, this is lovely, and I can see it means a lot to you, but it's not really convincing me of anything, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Here is my next question for you, Badnik. What got you into the Sonic franchise?
Oh, no, that's a cracking question. In it's also a really difficult question to answer, because it's like, what was the kind of thing that made you get into something where it's like, oh, I like this thing, I want to learn more about this thing, versus what kind of introduced you to it. So the thing that kind of introduced it to me was my mum and my gran. Um, what happened is like, I can't even remember what year this would have been. Might have been 1988, maybe. No, it would probably have been 1990, possibly 1989. You know, somewhere around there. We had a Commodore 64 computer, and it was a fine computer. I think we had it because the idea was maybe I would learn programming. What actually happened is I just ended up playing the real Ghostbusters video game on it nonstop because it was really fun. And I tried to get Shadow of the Beast to run, but it was really complicated, and to get the game to run, you had to do all this crazy stuff. Like, you'd put the cassette tape in the cassette reader on the Commodore 64, and then when it got to the starting screen, what I had to do was I had to press Control Shift, and there was a key called Lock, and I had to hold all those three buttons and press Enter, and then that would start the load game sequence, and then you would just have to hope the video game loaded, and that was basically playing video games. And if you died, more often than not, you had to stop the video game completely and rewind the cassette tape, and then do the whole thing again. And then if you died, you had to repeat that process. And this would last like 5 to 10 minutes. And that was playing video games on a Commodore 64. And then we
Mm.
learned about these things called home video game consoles. And these things were way easier to play video games on. So the idea, I think it was like my parent, my mum and my gran at the time, for one of the Christmases that was coming up, wanted to get me a home console, and it was basically, well, what do you get? Do you get a Nintendo or a Sega Mega Drive? And I think the whole idea was they were leaning towards Nintendo, and the game clerk basically said, "No, the Sega Mega Drive is better. We're selling them by the bucket load. The games are just look way better. You probably want a Sega Mega Drive." And of course, the Mega Drive was bundled with Sonic 1. And I ended up playing Sonic 1 a lot over this Christmas Day that I got it. And yeah, I really, really liked it. And this kind of branched off into getting Sonic the comic, and that was kind of what cemented my love for the character and all the other cool stuff. And then, of course, Sonic 2 came out. I was also very lucky to get a Mega CD, and there was Sonic CD on that, and I loved Sonic CD as well. It was awesome. Sonic 3 came out, played that, and I loved it. And then I kind of became a teenager, and I kind of grew out of Sonic for a while, and he was always kind of there. Like, you know, you would check in on see what's Sonic up to these days, and it was during the Saturn era, and there wasn't really a lot. And then all of a sudden, like around, I think it was shortly after, like I had a Dreamcast and I had Sonic Adventure. I didn't have Sonic Adventure 2, and I really loved Sonic Adventure, but I didn't really like the Dreamcast as a console. I preferred the PS2. And again, I kind of just faded out with Sonic for a while, and I want to say it was around the time Sonic Heroes came out. This was also the time when when we had the internet at our house, and it was a lot easier to see what these old franchises that you were wanting to were up to. And that was when I kind of sort of rekindled my love for the series, should we say? And that's that's kind of what got me back into it, really.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. Like, there's just some things that we like grow out of, and then sometimes we come back to it, like, when we get older.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's funny and ironic because people are like, "Oh, it's like you probably grew up with the '90s, right? '90s Sonic." I'm like, "No, I didn't." um, so, but that's really cool. At least now you're like you came back to it, as an adult now, and you're like, "Oh,"
I
and of
think.
course. Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, go on.
No, no,
I was
go
just going
ahead.
to say, I think it kind of helps as well that Sonic was one of the few franchises which, for some reason, just kind of hasn't really ever stopped. Like, because I remember at the same time when I had the internet, like, when people first started to get the internet, it was oddly around the same time. Like, I don't know. I always think about when Sonic Heroes came out, just because that was the Sonic game I got when I had the internet for the first time. So that's, even though I think it was a bit later. Like, I want to say I was on the internet properly like around 2000. When did Final Fantasy X come out? Because that
Uh,
was the first fandom I got involved in when I got on the internet, because Final Fantasy X was just coming out. But yeah, anyway, that was kind of the year I got the internet, and you would check all these franchises that you grew up with and just to see if they were still running. So there was stuff like, oh, what is the Ghostbusters franchise up to? Oh, the cartoon series hasn't really had a new show for a while. Okay, what's this series I used to enjoy up to? Oh, that series has been dead for nearly 10 years now. What's this Sonic guy up to? Oh, he's got some new games out. Well, there's been a lot of new games out. Oh, Sonic is still a thing.
yeah. Yeah, I kind of yeah, like the Sonic franchise has like endured, you know. It has endured for like 34 years, and then of course obviously next year is going to be the 35th anniversary of the franchise, which is crazy to think about.
I, I just realized something. You know, it's kind of funny. Somewhere in the world, there's probably some guy who played the original Bubsy and kind of loved it, and then just sort of went out of it for a while, has just come online and is like, oh yeah, what's Bubsy up to? Bubsy's got a new game out. This is great.
Yeah, like sometimes, especially if a franchise hasn't really been like, as active, you know, with the example you just mentioned. But yeah, the Sonic franchise has just been like enduring, you know, which is a good thing because now it's like we get like we get a lot of like dedicated fans, you know, who love this blue hedgehog, obviously, and and then now it's like it's branched out to like, content creators, artists, you know, um, people who just want to cover like whatever news they got, about the franchise. Um, but yeah, that's so interesting. But by the way, audience, if you, as a reminder, if you want to ask Badnik any questions, but just be sure they are appropriate questions, please. You are more than welcome to put your questions in the live stream chat. Just as a reminder. But here
Yeah,
is
if anybody does pitch the question, who are those content creators that you were talking about that do videos like that? First of all, I probably won't name them, but I will burst out laughing. So yeah, just be aware of stuff like that as well.
yes. All right. So here is my next question for you, Badnik. Do you have any advice for people who are aspiring to become content creators?
Yes, don't do it. um, yeah, I'm gonna sort of be big headed about this. I at last year's Sonic Con in the UK, I actually did a panel on being a Sonic tuber, and I kind of wrote it and did it in a way that yes, it's specifically about Sonic content, but you could probably take a lot of the stuff there for and apply it to like any fandom. And I don't think it's the most original of points. There is some stuff in there which I think is stuff which is specific to what I had to deal with getting into it. But you know, other content creators I've seen have said similar stuff. Like oh god, I can't remember his name. I cannot remember the guy's channel. He's really popular and I like his stuff. He makes me laugh and I can't remember his channel. I know he did a video called Dell, My Journey into Hell. I can't remember who it is. Oh god, what's his I'm looking this up. Because it's really worth a shout. Dell, My Journey into Hell. Buying a PC. Super Eye Patch Wolf. Super Eye Patch Wolf. Yeah, after I did this panel and performed it, I noticed that Super Eye Patch Wolf had done a similar thing about content creation, and a lot of points that I raised, he also raised in his video as well, and it kind of was like oh, good. This is a thing that is happening to other people as well. You know, it wasn't just a case of I'm saying this stuff and I've got no idea if this is happening to other people. But yeah, so there's a video on my channel which is called the Sonic Tuber Seminar, and that kind of has a lot of stuff in there about content creation, what I kind of wish I'd been aware of, and stuff which I think helps. And there is stuff in there that even content creators within Sonic don't want to talk about. Like, it's kind of a thing that we know is happening and going on, but it's kind of like we don't want to discuss it. Like, the big one is your health, both physical and your mental health. Content creation isn't good for it. Like, it's really not good. It is terrible for it. And you kind of got to take some serious steps to address that. But in terms of, like, if you want to get involved in content creation, probably the best advice I can give is don't grow up thinking I want to be a content creator. Grow up thinking, or I want to be skillful in something. And so what do I mean by that? Well, there's basically two cheat codes to being a really good content creator. The first one is become an amazing artist, because then you can do your own thumbnails, which will just attract people to your videos, and you'll get views that way, because it's really good. I noticed that's a big thing. But yeah, the other cheat code is become legitimately awesome at editing videos, because if you can do that, you are like a huge step. You are like a huge step there. Like you could talk about the most basic thing, but if you can make it visually entertaining and exciting to watch, people are going to watch it. But the main thing, the main draw, and this is kind of the big thing that if you're not very good at either of those two things, obviously those two things aren't essential. You know, you can do content creation without being like that. In terms of doing stuff that I do, which is like videos, you know, I'm not talking about streaming here when I say this. If you want to do actual video content and have video content that people are going to watch and that they're going to watch over and over again, just get an interest or become competent in something. Like you like for example, you could do content creation on virtually any subject. Like like an example that I would probably give is take up a science. Like you could do content creation on computer science, like programming, coding as an example. Or like if you were training to become a doctor, you can do content creation on what it's like being a doctor, like, you know, what it's like going through medical school, or what it's like, you know, talking to people. As long as you have like the expertise in a field of study, or you're competent in something, you know, people are going to pay attention to you. It's kind of like it's kind of funny. Like some people jump onto the content creation train because they kind of think, I want to be famous, or I want to be really, really popular. And it's like, well, yeah, but that you might do kind of okay. But I think especially now, content creators which kind of take off and do really well tend to be ones which kind of have something to say, or have some kind of knowledge and background behind them. Like obviously there are still those people who, you know, break that rule. Like people lie, people mislead, people grift, or, you know, whatever, and they become popular because they're appealing to a certain belief system. But honestly, if you wanted to become a really good content creator, I would say one of the best things you can do is just study in various different academic subjects. Like I would say English literature, or whatever literature is your nationality. Like if you're based in France, for example, I'm guessing there's like a French, like an English literature, like French literature. I don't know if that's a thing because I'm from England and we studied English literature. You know, like a French literature, for example. That would be something that would be useful. And obviously, if you're a German, German literature would be another really good one as an example, because that kind of teaches you, you know, how to read stuff like on a deeper level, subtext and things, and you can take away a lot from that. As well as like if you study a science, for example, any type of science, especially the hard sciences, they are very, very good at teaching you and giving you knowledge about how to structure and create an evidence-based argument. So that can make whatever you say way stronger, and also, like I said at the start, make people think about what it is you want to say. Make people think, sorry, about what it is you're saying, like even if they strongly disagree with you. But also, if you just have an interest in literally anything, just become an as best of an expert as you can on that subject, and people will listen to you, and you can actually kind of apply the lessons you learn in that to areas of what it is you're talking about. Oh god, I'm rambling now. But like for example, like the example I give is I came from like both an arts background and a science background as well, and so when I'm looking at video games and other media, yeah, I've got like the art critique side of me that looks at it and is like, okay, I'm getting this from this, but it's like, yeah, okay, now I'll actually frame that argument as if it was actually a science. So I approach it as I would do, say if I was writing something that was in a more scientific field, it's kind of funny to think of it like that, but it's when people are critiquing a game, for example, they'll often say, "This is just my opinion, guys. This is just my opinion," and I'm like, "No, I don't approach my videos or my reviews like that. I approach it like you would in a science background. Like you say, this is what I believe to be true. I'm stating this in the basis that what I'm telling you is fact, and I'm going to outline all my reasons for that using my and yes, it is my interpretation, but here are all my reasons for that, and I'm stating what I'm telling you in the basis that what I'm saying is truthful and factual. If you believe otherwise, you make the convincing argument otherwise." So I would say that if you want to get into content creation and be really good at it, purely study. Just like really study, like both a good science and a good arts background, and you'll kind of get the skills to analyze stuff. And then you can kind of look into, okay, how do I take this skills and this knowledge that I have and turn that into content creation as well? That was a very, very long answer.
Oh no, that's okay. Like I'm. It's always insightful and very interesting to hear hear my guests' answers. Oh, okay. Looks like I see questions in the chats. I see one, of course, by Radar. Um, so first thing I'd like to ask is, are you able to share with us your journey to and experience at the Sonic X McLaren event?
Oh yeah, I can talk about that. Yeah, so the funny thing is, I've actually been debating whether I should do a video on this or not, and the reason why I haven't is I did take footage from it, and it was not very good footage, and I did ask somebody who was there as well that did take some footage if they could send me that, and they haven't yet, so yeah, I should probably chase them up on that. But yeah, now this is one hell of a story, and I can't begin to explain the range of emotions that went through this. So let me just paint a picture to you. Imagine for a minute Sega announced the following. In Leicester Square, which is where this event was, there will be a free Sonic the Hedgehog convention. At this event, you will meet Takashi Iizuka, Hoshino-san. There will be all the voice actors from current games and previous. We'll have builds of the newest Sonic game, including builds of a Sonic game that has never been released. You can play it for free. You can meet members of the development team for free. There will be console setup that you can play for free of past Sonic games, including a never before released build of Sonic Extreme. You can see all these epic statues, all this amazing memorabilia. Crush 40 will be performing every 30 minutes. There will be stage events, shows, a giant stage in which all this will be going on. There will be food and drink provided by our partners, and there'll be arcade machines as well that you can play. Do you go to this event? No, seriously, would you go to this event if you were within, if that was within your travel distance, would you go to that event?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now imagine everything I've just said, but for McLaren F1, and for some reason Sonic the Hedgehog has a booth in the corner. So the day they announced this, the day this event had actually been announced like for weeks in advance, and of course, if you're a fan of McLaren F1, you're probably really interested. But here's where things got interesting. It was set over 2 days, and on the first day, the McLaren fans realized, oh, the drivers. So the famous, the famous drivers who actually, I can't remember the names. I'm sorry, I'm not that into F1, but I'm gonna look this up. I think it's Alonso. Is it Alonso? So, okay, I'm going to say Alonso. I genuinely don't know if it's him or not, but yeah. Apparently it's not. I can't remember. No. Oh, apparently Alonso was with McLaren. He's not anymore. Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember who it is. I don't know. I'm not going to look this up. But yeah, basically, McLaren's main F1 drivers, they were there for one day, and then they were heading up to Silverstone for the second day because obviously they had a Grand Prix that weekend, so they had to go up to Silverstone to do all the press coverage for that. So the main draw to go and see the drivers, and let's be real, if you're a fan of F1 racing, it's very rare that you'd be able to go to an event to meet the drivers for free. So suddenly, oh, they're going to be in London in at this event that's free to enter, and they're only going to be there for one day. Which day do you go to? Of course, you're going to go to the one that they're there for. So I arrived in London at about, I think it was about an hour before the event actually opened. And my God, the line to get in, I had never seen anything like it. Like, it was longer than MCM Comic Con was, like London Comic Con. I'd never seen a line this long. Like, I can't even begin, unless you're someone who lives in London or frequents the area around Leicester Square. I can't explain to you how long this line was. And it wasn't just the one line, there was 3 of them. And there was literally thousands of people there. Like, it was in the tens of thousands. I'd never seen this level of people waiting to get into an event. And the vast majority were all wearing like the McLaren F1 logo, shirts and uniforms like that. And I'd never seen this many people. And slowly but surely, we started to make our way to the front of the line. And then all of a sudden, it just stopped. And for about 40 minutes, we didn't move from this one spot. And thoughts started to turn to, they're at capacity and we're not going to get in. And then by some miracle, we finally got in. Like an hour and a half after it opened, we actually got into this event. And what happened was, in terms of the Sonic stuff, I'll just sort of explain what this was. I was there with a friend of mine, and we didn't really know what to expect. Like, we'd heard rumors that there was like going to be a free comic book given out, and there was going to be a poster as well, but we didn't really know if there was going to be anything else or what the actual event was. And we're stood in this crowd of like thousands of people, all there to see the drivers and all there to see the cars, and there for F1 racing. And we could just see Sega's booth. And as we got closer, I said, "Oh my God, they're playing with steering wheels." And there was all these people sat in like these Formula One racing chairs, and they had steering wheels in front of them. And I was like, do we have to play Crossworlds with a steering wheel? I was like, oh God, this is going to be difficult. I haven't played a video game for steering wheel for about 20 years. What's going to happen? And then they're not playing a video game. They were playing a remote control car game.
Oh.
So they had like this this model like Scalextric track set up with these just generic Formula One racing cars on it. And these racing cars had little Sonic stickers on the side and little Sonic Racing Crossworlds. And that was it. That was the Crossworlds representation. And I was like, oh my God. So you had to race these like little remote control racing cars around this track. And it took a long time for them to do. Like, you had to, I think it was something like 12 laps you had to do. And they didn't stop the race until everybody had done all 12 laps. So it took however long it took people to do 12 laps. And some like did it in 10 minutes, but some were like 20 minutes up there. And it was like, what is going on? This is so slow. And then you had to take out your phone and scan a QR code, register on a website, and then when you actually got sat in the chairs, you had to enter your details so it could give you your time. And that's how they tracked who won the race. So it was amazingly slow. And as we're watching it, we're suddenly noticing something. Like, everybody that goes up and plays came away with the poster, which, okay, that's quite cool. And we noticed that the winners got a t-shirt. And we were like, wait, how do you get the comic book? How do you get the manga? Because we could see the comic books, they were sort of scattered around the track, but we couldn't see anybody handing them out. And then as we got closer to the front, the reps, the staffers, they do sort of started having some banter. And I just said on the off chance, oh, we came specifically for the Sonic stuff. We're not really into F1. Sorry, we just really, really like Sonic. And at that, they brought over this guy who was named Rich. And Rich was one of the developers from Sega. He was it was really funny. From the sounds of it, it sounded like he was just over in England on vacation. He wasn't there in an official capacity and was probably just told, oh, there's going to be this big Sega event in London. Do you want to go and have a look at it? And he just kind of went along. And it was up to Rich who got a copy of the Crossworlds manga or not. Oh, just excuse me a minute.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, sorry, I just need some water there. So we got talking to Rich, and I said, "Oh, hi, yeah, we came just especially for this Sonic stuff, and I'm not sure if you believed me at first." And I sort of said, "Yeah, no, I'm really, really into Sonic, even though I didn't look like I was. I was just wearing random generic clothes. I didn't really look like a Sonic fan." And I was like, no, I really am. Look, here's my YouTube channel. Here's my Twitter account. And he was like, oh, you're him. And then he said, oh, just wait here a minute. And then he came back with a comic book and he said, yeah, I'm trying to give these out to people who are specifically here for Sonic, and it's not easy at the minute. Like, I've only seen about 2 or 3 people wearing a Sonic shirt, and there's one guy who's actually come dressed as Dr. Eggman. I was like, what? Where's he? And
wow.
yeah, so they were only giving out the comic book to people who were clearly there for Sonic or big Sonic fans.
Oh.
Yeah, and anyway, so I got the comic book before I actually did the remote control car racing, and when I eventually got up on the stage, there was like the pressure was off me a bit now, because I thought, do you have to win to get one of the comic books? And I really, really wanted the comic books, and I started doing it, and when it got to lap 3, I suddenly noticed I'm actually doing pretty well at this, and I thought, there's a chance that I could win this. So I started taking it way too seriously. And then I think it was on something like lap 5 or lap 8. All of a sudden, somebody who wasn't doing really well crashed into me and completely took me out. And I was like, no! And I did literally everything I possibly could to recover and just get my position back. And I suddenly was realizing I'm still doing okay. There's a chance I could win this. And then I crossed the finish line in what I thought was my last time. And all of a sudden, the screen that I didn't put it into suddenly started flashing and blinking, and it came up with, you win position first. I was like, no way, I've actually won this. And yeah, I actually ended up winning, and I ended up coming away with a t-shirt. And this t-shirt is one of the best promotional shirts I've ever received from an event anywhere. It was like, it's proper merch. It's not like, oh, we took a bunch of shirts from the dollar store to a printers and just got our logo printed on it. There you go, official merch. It's like, no, this has actually been a proper tailored embroidered thing that they've got their official license partner to make. And it's so good. And I just can't get over how good a quality this t-shirt actually was. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. But what's funny is the guy who I mentioned who took a lot of video apparently videoed the whole race. And I haven't seen the clip yet, but I can only imagine the expression I'm pulling, because there was a moment where I suddenly became aware of, I might be taking this a bit too seriously, and I could only imagine the expression on my face as my brain is telling me, focus, you can win this, don't give them a chance. And all I can think is, thank God that the group of people I was playing with were also adults, because if there were kids on there, and I ended up winning, and I was pulling this serious, I'm not going to lose to these people, I'm not going to lose, and it was children, I would feel so terrible.
Oh.
But yeah, that's pretty much what the McLaren event was. What I got to see. Now, after this, me and my friend decided to leave because it was very busy, and that was basically all we could see about Sonic. However, what we didn't know is there was also a stage event in which Sonic came out, and the actual mascot, and they briefly mentioned, "Oh, Sonic Racing Crossworlds is coming out. Here is the trailer for that game." But afterwards, me and my friend was sat having a pizza, and we started talking about it, and we were like, that was a really terrible event to promote Crossworlds. Because
Mm,
what did it have to do with a video game? And it was
mm.
like, you had an event in London, which we spoke to one of the reps, and they said originally they estimated that there was going to be 4,000 people that turned up, but because the drivers were there, they'd revised that estimate to over 10,000 people. You had an event in the heart of London in which on day one, 10,000 people turned up, and you didn't have a playable demo of your new video game?
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a really, really cool event, but it felt like afterwards, when you really started to think about it, how does this promote Crossworlds?
Yeah.
It was so weird. It was like such a massive missed opportunity. Like because even if you were into Sonic, and you wouldn't pre-order the game based off playing a remote control car game, as fun and as exciting as it was. And even the comic book, the manga, it barely relates to Crossworlds at all. So even if you did win it, if you were like a random McLaren person, it barely relates to it. And the other big thing as well, this is something that I keep thinking about, and it keeps bugging me. Do you remember? It was a couple of months ago now. They announced that partnership with Red Bull Rally Racing.
Mm.
They had a thing where I think it was like they had a rally car or something, and they went through a warp ring, and there was a couple of CG Sonic characters in the Green Hill Zone waving at them, and it was like, we're now partnered with Red Bull Rally. It's like, what's happening with that? Because we all thought, oh, there'll be playable characters, there'll be a playable skin in Crossworld. It's like, no, that's not been announced. And it's like, oh, well, maybe McLaren F1, there's going to be an F1 car in Crossworld. No, nothing. Wait, what are these partnerships actually doing? And even the McLaren thing, like there was a follow-up event, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and I didn't get invited to this. I need to chase this up. Like, what's going on with this? It looked like a really cool event, but I'm honestly thinking, what does this have to do? And even like the McLaren car, the actual cars that were there, they didn't have the Sonic logo on it, or even like the Racing Crossworlds logo. So it was so barely related to Crossworlds that it was like, what's this even about? It literally was like it's like that Scott the Woz joke of Sonic Spinball, it exists. It was like Sonic Crossworlds, it exists, but even lower than that, just Sonic, he exists.
Yeah, like you could say sometimes their marketing is like a little bit weird, when they're trying to promote like their new game. Um, I think, I can give the example of the K1 Speed. But the marketing I would say is not really great on that one either. Because I only found out because it was posted on Twitter, and I met like some Sonic cosplayers at San Diego Comic-Con, and it's like, I'm not sure if you know this, but there's like, if you go to K1 Speed, there's like a Sonic collaboration. They're like, really? I did not know this. I was like, oh, yeah. Like, they marketed it on the week of San Diego Comic-Con. So it was a little bit strange, I'll say that for sure. Because, like I said, when I went there, like on Thursday of San Diego Comic-Con, after I did all the things I wanted to do in the convention center that day, I was just like, there was like barely anybody there. Like, I thought there would be a lot of people, but apparently it's just like the people who are just racing. And I'm just like, whoa, it's like this marketing was like, I think it wasn't that great.
Well,
And
there was
it was,
a similar there was a similar thing that happened in the UK last year, and this was a weird one because I actually got an invite to this, and I both dodged a bullet with this one by not going, but at the same time I kind of regretted not being able to. Do you remember how Shadow the Hedgehog's motorcycle sort of did this tour of mainly of America, but it also came to the UK for a day or two and then kind of vanished? You know, the actual motorcycle, the Dark Rider.
mm-hmm.
Well, this was a big thing that they made a big deal that the Dark Rider would be touring, you know, various events across the world. And they never announced when or where it was going to be. And there was in the case of the UK, it was really bizarre because there was this one random website that said, oh, Sega will be at Silverstone and the Dark Rider, and they're going to be promoting their new video game, and Shadow the Hedgehog's motorcycle will be there. And it was just this random MotoGP fan blog. You know, it wasn't like a major news outlet had been reporting this, and it wasn't even on the official Sega website for the event. So I was basically emailing everybody who I could think of saying, is this a genuine thing? Is it going to be there? And I eventually got a response from somebody at Sega of America who said, oh yeah, this is real. It's going to be there. Would you like a press invite? And I was like, oh, well, I'll say yes, but I will need to look into if it's feasible to get there because last minute travel in the UK is incredibly expensive. Like, I can't get over how expensive this is. But I thought, well, let me see if I can actually go to the Silverstone racecourse where I am. And what I learnt is, unless you can drive there, the Silverstone racecourse is incredibly difficult to get to. Like, you can get a train to the nearest city, which is Milton Keynes, but there's literally 4 buses per day that go to Silverstone racecourse. And they run like every 2 hours. And it's the same coming back. There's like 4 buses. And there wasn't even like a shuttle bus for events that say, oh, it runs every 10 minutes or whatever. You know, it was just nothing. You were basically on your own to get there. And a taxi ride was like £50 there and £50 to get back. So it's £100 for a taxi. It ain't economically viable. It just absolutely wasn't. And this is on top of a last minute train ticket, which would have been £100 on its own. So I was looking at like a £200 just on my travel to get there. So it was like, yeah, I can't justify this at all. And I was really annoyed because when I got the press pass through, it was like a proper race press pass. It was like, oh, hello, sir. We'd like to offer you our VIP press pass. You will be entering through this gate here. You'll be greeted with a welcome breakfast at the thing. And I was like, what the hell? A welcome breakfast? That's not happened before. and it was like, you know when you watch like if you ever see like a Formula One event and you kind of sort of see, oh, there's the press paddock, and the press are sort of kept in these really nice air-conditioned areas, and there's like a buffet spread laid out for them. It was like that. It wasn't like, say, a generic convention where, oh, you're a creator or you're a member of the press. Yes, well, come right this way, and yeah, that's it. This was like they were going to treat these people who had a press pass like kings. It was just insane. And I was like, oh man, I would have really liked to have gone to this. Just to have that proper VIP experience. But this is where things get weird. So obviously the aim of this press pass was to try and get you to promote the MotoGP event, which is like a motorcycle event. But I would have been going to just see, oh no, I want to see the Shadow the Hedgehog motorcycle. And what was crazy is there is not, if you look this up, like if you try and look up this event, there is not one mention anywhere online about the Shadow the Hedgehog motorcycle. There's no pictures, there's no video, there is nothing.
Oh,
Why?
wow.
Why is that?
That's a great
Because for a
question.
MotoGP racing event, people buy tickets to watch the MotoGP racing events, not to take pictures of Shadow the Hedgehog's motorbike.
That's
So you had
true.
this. So yeah, you had this big event, which was attracting all these fans of motor racing, and yeah, they would see Shadow the Hedgehog's motorcycle, and maybe they'd stand next to it, maybe they'd get a picture of it. But they're not going there for that. Like, I would have probably been the only Sonic fan who would have gone to there just for that. So no one's taking pictures of it. Nobody's gone home to talk about it. And I kind of felt that that was a massive potential missed opportunity at the McLaren event as well, because yeah, people weren't going there specifically just for Sonic, well, except for me and a handful of others, but you had 10,000 people who went to this event and you weren't even able to play their game. And it was kind of the same for this MotoGP event as well. Like, nobody knew that the Shadow the Hedgehog motorcycle was going to be there, but that's all that was there. You know, there wasn't the video game to play either.
Mm. Yeah, like yeah, it is definitely a little bit strange because as I said, like the K1 Speed like collaboration they did. Don't get me wrong, it's an interesting collaboration because it does literally have to do with like kart racing. So, it's like similar like racing aesthetic. So I was like, I totally get that. And I thought there was gonna be a lot of people. I'm like, what happened here? Like I kind of felt like the marketing was not done as well as they thought it to believe. Um, so it was a little bit strange because literally, like I said, I talked to some Sonic fans that I met at San Diego Comic-Con, and they had like no idea that was going on. So I'm kind of like, mm.
Well, a similar thing happened at MCM last year as well. I'd gone to MCM anyway, just because I kind of thought it was kind of funny. There used to be a really good video game convention in the UK called EGX. It's not that great anymore. It's kind of just now a small corner of MCM Comic Con. So I went there anyway, just on the vain hope that maybe Sega would be there with Sonic and Shadow Generations. They sort of were there, but it's a long story. When we got there, I met up with my friend and we spent about 2 hours just randomly walking around the convention hall, and we were like, so what do you want to do now then? Do you want to just go back and look at Artist's Alley? Do you want to go queue up for Lego Horizon Zero Dawn? We're like, oh, let's just wander around and see what we can see. What is that, Shadow the Hedgehog? We literally turned a corner and there was the goddamn Dark Rider. Literally the motorcycle. It was there. and nobody knew. Like, they didn't advertise it was going to be there or anything. And I put a tweet out saying, did anyone else know that the Dark Rider motorcycle is at MCM Comic Con in London? And there were people who were at the convention responding with, where the hell is this? Because even people at the convention didn't know it was there. And I was like giving out directions of just go to door E7 and it's right there. And it was hidden away at the Samsung TV booth. And it was awesome. It was such a cool photo op. And yeah, you could play Shadow Generations, and there's even some merch being given away as well. But it was like, this is such a cool thing. And people didn't know. And I honestly thought, why didn't you tell anyone? Like, there would have been people who would have probably paid for a ticket just to see this.
Mhm. Yeah, like, yeah, definitely sometimes the marketing can be hit and miss, because sometimes they don't even advertise if it's gonna be, like, somewhere, so that's the thing I've noticed sometimes, like, sometimes, like, the Sonic Speed Cafe, they've been great with their marketing, that's why they always get, like, long lines, I'm like, "That's great," it's obvious their marketing team is great on that. But, like, when it's, like, other collaborations, when they're not really, like, marketing it, I'm like, "Ooh, that's a, like it's like a miss in terms of that." But, here is my next question for you, Badnik. Are there any Sonic characters you relate to in terms of personality?
Oh god. In terms of personality, probably not, or at least nothing that comes to mind. There are characters that I really like because of their personality. Like I really like Big the Cat. I genuinely do, and the story I will give, the thing that sort of convinced me to is in Sonic Adventure when it first came out, people hated Big because they hated the fishing minigame, and even I had a bad experience. My Dreamcast controller had a faulty analog stick, so the fishing line kept zooming across the screen. It wouldn't stay still where I put it, so I had a really bad early experience of it. But the thing about Big the Cat is when Big the Cat's game starts, he's shown to be living in like this tropical paradise. He's huge. He's kind of lazy. He's asleep. He's slow. He's not very fit. He clearly isn't a major adventurer, and he's living quite an idyllic lifestyle. And he gives
Mm.
it all up to save his friend. It's like, oh, this is so sweet. And he goes on this amazing, dangerous journey, and his literal only motivation is to basically check that his friend is okay. Like, his friend doesn't even seem to be in any kind of danger, not really, because Froggy isn't kidnapped, he just hops off.
Mhm.
So Big's entire motivation is just to check that Froggy's doing all right, and it's only until later in the game that Froggy gets kidnapped, and I just think that is such a lovely thing. And there's so many other examples of Big just does stuff because he wants to help other people, and he just sticks up for his friends. Like in Sonic Heroes, he says the immortal line, "It's not nice to tease my friends," which is basically Big the Cat's version of the Terminator saying Sarah Connor before he shoots up the goddamn police station. But yeah, it's he's such a
Oh.
great character. I really think he's great. But the other character, and I'm going to really like the fuse on this one. I think Amy Rose is fine.
Like,
Yeah, with the current, yeah. So Amy Rose's character, I really like her in Sonic Adventure, and I also really think she's amazing in Sonic Adventure 2 as well. Amy's really interesting. Like I did, I went into detail a lot on my in my one of my videos on Sonic Adventure about her. I think she's got a really great character development model, and I think that certainly in Frontiers, it's going back to to the direction she was going in Sonic Adventure before we got all these years of Amy being the Amy Rose stereotype of just being
Mhm.
crazy about Sonic. And yes, you can say, oh no, she wasn't always crazy about Sonic. There was all these examples of where she was kind, where she was quiet, and where she was nice. And it's like, yeah, there were. But it's like, you don't remember that, guys. The majority of people only remember her running around with a hammer screaming, Sonic, I want you to marry me. But yeah, I really like Amy's characterization in Sonic Adventure because I'll just sort of briefly go over this. I'm not going to go into massive detail, but when she starts out, she's basically walking through Station Square carrying groceries. She's thinking about how her and Sonic blew enemies away, as she calls it, but that's a lie, and even the game points out this isn't true because Sonic's actually the one rescuing her. And then, of course, Zero the robot appears, and her first instinct is to just grab the birdie, and she hides in the burger shop. And then she's like, "Well, what are we gonna do? Oh, I know. Let's find Sonic. He'll save us." And then she literally tries to just pass the birdie off to Sonic. She doesn't want anything to do with it. But then as the game goes on, there's all these lovely little subtle hints that no, Amy's actually way braver and way more of a hero than she even realizes. Like, the big thing that I point out is after the Twinkle Park stage, when they're walking down the street, Zero ambushes them. Now, Zero's objective isn't kidnap Amy. It's kidnap the bird. It's capture the bird, because the bird's got the Chaos Emerald. It's got no interest in Amy at all. But because Amy's constantly grabbing the bird and trying to save it, Zero is like, "Oh, I'll just capture you then, since you're not letting go of the bird, and I'll take you both into Eggman. It's no skin off my nose." So if Amy just let go of the bird, Zero would let go of her. But she doesn't. And it's like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, Amy doesn't even realize how brave or how heroic she's being. She's just doing it. And then later on, Amy's the one that's going out, making the decision of, let's break into this Eggman base. Maybe we can find out some more info. She's doing this on her own. And her gameplay even reflects this. Like, she runs from Zero because that's all she can do. She doesn't have the strength to physically destroy it. And I just think it's great. It's so good. And then when you look at other science fiction movies as well, like the example I use is the original Terminator film. And we know that Terminator was a movie that Sonic Team used as inspiration for a lot of their stuff. Her plot in that story is basically a parody retelling of the movie The Terminator. There's so many scenes which match one for one, and even certain camera angles and shots with the cinematography, it matches one for one. And I'm going to promote my own stuff. I want to say it's in the Sonic Adventure retrospective video I did. It's either in that or the Through the Looking Glass one. There's a section where I talked about Amy, and I actually pulled in some scenes from the Terminator movie and Amy's story in Sonic Adventure, and it's so similar. It's just ridiculous how similar it is. And yeah, it's only surface level stuff, but it is really, really fun when you see it. And then in SA2, Amy gets quite a raw deal in SA2 because of how they compose the cutscenes in that game. It's not great, but it kind of carries on. Like, she's the one that's always trying to get involved with the boys in the adventure, but they're just kind of dismissing her, which isn't really her fault. And the scene at the end where she talks to Shadow, she's kind of the only one that could have gotten through to him at that point. And yeah, it's not the greatest dialogue ever, but it certainly works. And I think it's great. And you look at something like Sonic Frontiers, and it's Amy that's kind of leading Sonic along at that point. Like, when Sonic first meets Amy, he rescues her from the jail orb thing that she's in. But she's the one that's constantly saying, "No, I feel fine. I feel fine. Come on, let's get on. Let's get on. Let's go see how we can fix this." She's the one that's kind of leading him. And when she encounters the Coco, she can't quite communicate with them, but she can tell that they need their help. And even though she's in this like state of, "No, you kind of need saving at the minute," she's like, no, we can help these guys first and then we can worry about me. She's the one that's like saying to Sonic, "No, we're going to help these people first. Help these people. Don't worry about me. I feel fine. I'm doing fine. We're going to help these guys first." I just think this is great. This is a clear continuation of where Amy was in Sonic Adventure 2. And you kind of see it as well in Sonic Forces, but Sonic Forces is rough, and we won't talk about that right now. But yeah, I'm okay with the direction that Amy Rose's character is going in, and I think you can look at certainly from Sonic Heroes up to certainly Sonic Forces and look at Amy and be like, "Oh no, Amy had all these lovely moments where she was like that, and Amy was a great character and she was like that." And she was like, "Yeah, she might have been, guys, but most people don't remember her for that. They remember her with a great big hammer running around screaming, saying, 'I'm going to marry you, Sonic.'" No!
Hmm.
If you want a good character, look at what they're currently doing and what they used to do with Amy. That's a really good character, or at least that's how I view that anyway. Oh god, so many people are going to take this out of context and be like, how dare you speak for me, or whatever.
Ah, very interesting. All right, here is my next question for you, Badnik. What is your favorite Sonic game and why?
Oh god, I knew you was going to ask me this question and I hate it. Yeah, this question kind of changes depending on what mood I'm in, but my default response is Sonic CD, but I have opinions about it. And
Mhm.
the reason why, and this is really stupid, like I completely understand how ridiculous this question is, but this answer is going to be, but I want you to understand something, that technology changes and our perception of how good and realistic something looks changes over time. Sonic CD was the first video game I played, and it felt like I was playing a movie.
Mm.
And now that I'm older and wiser, I kind of think I understand why I felt that way. One reason was definitely because the music was playing off an actual CD soundtrack and not a chip making beeps and boops, if that makes sense. Um,
Mm.
and also the fact it has an amazingly cool opening animation, which, yes, the original Mega CD version was choppy, pixelated, and not very good, but at the time, it looked like a HD film, damn it. It looked great. And just the fact Sonic could do all these new animations and moves, it looked incredible. The way in Palm Tree Panic, right at the start, there's that really cool trick in which the perspective changes. It just looks so good. The special stages where you're chasing the UFOs around that 3D stage, everything about it looked good, looked amazing. It just looks so cool. And the robot was basically the Sonic version of the Terminator. Again, Sonic Team takes inspiration from the Terminator. They're very open with this. It was just so cool. It was just everything that a growing boy needed. In terms of which game do I think is the best Sonic game, probably Sonic Adventure in terms of the overall package, but in terms of actual Sonic stages, Sonic Adventure 2, I think, has the better gameplay.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
Yeah. It's a difficult question to answer when you've got like 35 years of a video game.
Yeah. I always love hearing like my guests like answers on this because everyone obviously has their own like opinions. I always love asking that question.
I mean, it's kind of funny because there's another one which I'm actually surprised that this isn't the favorite one, because it's something that I imagine would impact people a lot. Like, I know it's kind of old ham now, and it's often a joke. Oh, this game's got the Green Hill Zone in it. Well, I kind of want you to think of something for a moment. We as human beings are not very good when it comes to the passage and our perception of time. Like for an example, earlier today, I suddenly realized that next year, Sonic 06 is going to be 20 years old,
Hmm.
which is kind of scary to think about. But what I need to sort of understand with what I'm about to say is Sonic the Hedgehog, the original game, came out in 1991. In that time, video games went from being simple 2D pixelated sprites on a screen to 3D polygon environments. Yeah, it was early, but you had stuff like Mario 64 had come out, and you'd had Doom was out. You had games which could do 3D, and they looked really, really cool and amazing. And there was a period at some point between, it was during the 2000s. People started to say, what would this zone look like in 3D? And you kind of saw it with the GameCube remake of not remake, the GameCube version of Sonic Adventure 2. They had the reimagining of the Green Hill Zone in 3D. And it was fun, but it kind of gave you a taste of what they could do. But, it wasn't a proper 3D remake. And then all of a sudden, Sonic Generations comes out. And oh my god, it had been, 20 years since Sonic 1. You'd had at least 10 of those years, 3D gaming was a real thing and it was here to stay. So you'd had 10 years of people saying, oh my god, what would Green Hill look like in a 3D environment? What would the Scrap Brain Zone look like in a 3D environment? I want to see Doomsday in a 3D environment. I want to see the chemical plant in a 3D environment. Sky Sanctuary in a 3D environment. And then all of a sudden, Sonic Generations gives you that. The first time this had happened, 20 years since the original, we finally had a true 3D remake of those stages. And it's like, I don't think people understand or quite get how much of a big deal that was. And it's kind of funny how that's not my go-to answer, just because of the emotional impact that had on me and people my age as well. Like, I can remember somebody saying in a Sega interview that they literally cried when they saw Sky Sanctuary in 3D because it was their favorite stage when they grew up, and the fact they'd just seen it in 3D, it just blew them away. And I just think it's kind of funny that that one hasn't had the same emotional roller coaster impact that other games have had.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's kind of old hat. People are like, oh, here's the Scrap Brain Zone again. Not Scrap Brain, the Chemical Plant Zone, or oh, here's the Green Hill Zone again. This is boring. And it's like, you guys don't know. You don't understand. You don't understand what 2011 was like.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, I think, with everything, yeah, yeah, because I know at some point people really started to get like tired of Green Hill now, at some
Yeah.
point, which I'm like, I don't blame them, because like it's like, come on, we need some like new fresh ideas for like zones and stages, because that's what made all of those different stages in the classic era so unique, because they're all like different.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably will get people that will say at some point, "Oh, it's Sonic Generations, and I can understand why, because it was like the game that it was just pure nostalgia, the whole thing, and I'm honestly quite surprised that it's not one that I have a go-to, even though I think people kind of expect people my age would probably go to that, just because of how it was literally targeted for people like me who grew up with the original classics and who was at the age where we had disposable income and could buy the new Sonic game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Here is my next question for you, Badnik. How did you come up with your pen name? Like, for those who are curious.
Oh, actually came up with Badnik Mechanic. This is, yeah. So originally I was going to sort of go with something more generic, like the game mechanic, because people was always talking about, oh, this game's got good the game mechanic in this, or this game's mechanic. They're like, oh, that'd be a fun name. But because I was kind of mainly focused around Sonic stuff, I just thought, oh, Badnik Mechanic sounds quite fun. Just like there's probably a mechanic somewhere that works on Robotnik's robots, which just sounds quite funny. So it just basically fell in that way, really. Just like it sounded like a funny name, and it kind of gave you a more, just like a whole idea that there might be someone who Robotnik employs that fixes up his Badniks once Sonic wrecks them. And fun fact, in Fleetway comics, they actually did explore this idea. Robotnik did have two mechanics that he employed to go to various areas after Sonic had wrecked his Badniks, just to try and collect the parts and fix them up again. But yeah, I think if I ever decided to, and that day is many years away, if I ever decided to become a more generic, I'm just going to cover whatever game I like, it might be tempting to change my name to The Game Mechanic. But no, I kind of like Badnik Mechanic at the minute. I think it's just the right amount of funny.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like it's very catchy, and I kind of love how you said, "Oh yeah, when it comes to like gameplay, people always refer to it as gameplay mechanics,
Yeah,
and that's absolutely true." So
I mean, I know
because
it's opened.
oh,
I
go
know it
ahead.
has opened. It has put me as an amazing own goal, and I'm honestly just going to sort of laugh really, really loudly when this happens, and maybe even use it to mock whoever does this. Like, if someone really dislikes my content, they might say, "He's wrong, Badnik Mechanic is bad," that kind of thing. And someone has come very close to doing that in one once because I made a joke about Sonic Generations that they took offense to.
Oh
Yeah.
my. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Here is my next question because I don't see any other questions, but I'm very curious. Like, what was your experience with SonicCon UK? I'm very curious. Yeah, just tell us your experience about it.
Um, well, I I kind of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with all conventions. So this isn't anything against SonicCon UK. This is purely just me at conventions. Like if I go on my own, I kind of get a bit down at them. Like, I get a little bit bored and I don't have the greatest time. And I think with SonicCon UK, yeah, I did know people that were there, but I did spend quite a lot of the time on my own. So it was an event that it was like, yeah, I don't really feel part of this, if that makes sense. It's like you go to a really, really good party, but you kind of just stood in the corner, just sort of watching everybody else having an amazing time, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, I did two panels there, and I really loved doing them. Like, it was the most fun I've ever had at a convention. Like the Sonic Tuba one was legitimately really fun, even though I did start crying during it. If you watch the video, you'll understand why. But yeah, I started crying during my panel, and it was sort of afterwards, an actual NHS nurse came up to me who was watching it and asked me if I was doing okay and if I needed any help. And I was like, "Oh, no, but thank you very much for asking." But anyway, I felt it was an important panel to do because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff in Sonic content creation circles, which is kind of things that we don't like talking about, even though it is happening and people are aware it's happening and no one really wants to talk about it. But anyway, so it was a panel I thought I really, really kind of have to do and just get this one thing out just so it's kind of out there. But the other panel that I did was the one that I really wanted to do, and it was the one on it was one I foolishly decided to do. Originally, I said, "Oh, I'm going to explain why the Sonic Adventure games are really, really awesome," and then I realized, wait, I only have 40 minutes to do this. There's no way I can do that. So I just basically for 40 minutes talked about stuff I think is really neat within the various Sonic games. And there's this weird thing whenever you're doing a presentation for people. Like I've noticed this whenever I've done them at college or university. There's a moment where you can kind of tell if your presentation is going well and if people are really getting into it. And I kind of felt that about halfway through, that I think these guys are really enjoying this. Like, even though, people weren't laughing loudly at all the jokes and how some jokes just didn't really get much of a reaction. And, the audience was just kind of quiet, but it wasn't quiet as in we're bored and we're looking at our phones. They were sort of sat just watching, really paying attention. And that was kind of the point where I was like, I think this is working. This is coming across well. And I got to the end of the panel and I said, "Are there any questions?" And literally, virtually every single person in the panel, in the audience, and again, it wasn't a full house. There was like about 20 or 30 people in this in this hall that could hold probably about 100. You know, so it wasn't full. Virtually all of them put their hand up, and I was like, "Oh, I want to swear, but you told me not to." So, oh, fish cakes. Oh, fish cakes. Oh my god. They liked this. And the questions were legitimately amazing. And one guy asked a question, and he basically, I can't remember exactly what it was without looking. I think it was something along the lines of, how do you think Sonic Team should bridge the gap between trying to appeal to an older audience like you and I, whilst maintaining the fact that obviously Sonic is kind of a kids franchise? How do you think they should bridge that gap? And my answer was something about how, well, I think the one way they can start is through the use of silence. And I sort of explained how in Sonic Frontiers, which is it's a game I'm doing a video on, but I really need to get my act together and try and finish, even though production's kind of been horrible on that one. But anyway, that's another story. In Sonic Frontiers, they do a lot of stuff in silence. Like the opening cutscene is told a lot through silence, and there's a lot of cutscenes where they rely heavily on gesture and facial expression. And I really liked that. I thought it was really good. So I basically gave an answer like that. And anyway, afterwards, he came up to me and said, "Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm the professor of game design at Cambridge University." Oh, hello. Do you need a paid assistant? And yeah, he basically said, I have to be honest with you, when this panel started and you started talking about storytelling stuff, I did sort of have this horror that it was just going to descend into a generic, oh, let me tell you about ludonarrative dissonance and all the other buzzwords. But he said, that was an amazing panel, and I would have had no problem at all with you giving that as a genuine opening brief to my university students.
What? That's crazy. That's
yeah, and my first reaction was, well, I'm available for commissions. But no, yeah, it was like, my God. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, damn, this panel was actually good. Like, people really genuinely liked what I had to say. And it wasn't just the whole people had questions, because I kind of feel that a lot of panels, like, if it's not been very good, like, people don't ask questions because they just want to get out. They want to go. But the fact that almost everybody seemed to have questions, like in the video, there's no way I could get through them all because the panel overran, and I could literally see at the door the next people that needed the room were waiting to get in. And I was like, I really don't want this to end because there's so many people with questions. Like, I had to go outside and basically talk to people who had seen my panel just to answer their questions. And the fact that this guy said that, it was like, holy crap, this is amazing. This is like the most amazing bit of feedback I could have gotten. And when I uploaded the video on the panel, it's not done amazingly, this video, but of course it's not. When you see it's a recording of a panel, it doesn't have that appeal. Some of the people that have watched it, a few of the comments on it are just amazing. Like, and it's not just the usual stuff like, oh, this is really great. This is a really great video. You know, they go into detail as to why they think it's a really great panel that I did. And it was just such an uplifting moment of, okay, I think I may not only have something to say, but how I'm saying it is kind of resonating with people, and people are responding to it. And that's kind of the direction I'm wanting to take my YouTube channel in now with these game analysis stuff I'm doing. And I'm kind of hoping that is going to, I don't know, not necessarily win people around, but kind of improve the quality of certain conversations we have about our video games, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was kind of the highlight of my time at SonicCon UK. But it was the very first Sonic convention that this particular group of people had done, and there is a lot I could criticize about it, and I did give them quite a lot of criticism afterwards as well. Like, guys, there's some stuff which you really need to think about if you're doing this again. And there's some stuff which I think you're not ready to do. Like the current Sonic convention that they're doing, they originally wanted it to be like a 2-day event in London. And myself and there was a couple of people who were staff at Summer of Sonic for all the many years we did that convention and attended. And we basically said they're gonna bankrupt themselves, or they're gonna potentially put themselves into some serious problems if they try to do a 2-day event in London with the size that they are. They've got to stop. Someone needs to really convince them this is a bad idea. So a lot of people basically sent the messages saying, "Look, you guys really need to seriously think about this being a 2-day event because it's not big enough for London. You don't understand how expensive it's going to be, not just for you guys, but for your attendees as well." So I kind of feel that maybe that has had some impact as well, because I think when you see the schedule for the next event, which I've seen it yet, but obviously I can't talk about it right now because it hasn't been released, there is a lot more stuff going on more regularly. So there's kind of like entertainment constantly going on. Whereas I think that if you went to the last one on your own, which I sort of did, it was very easy to feel a bit lonely. But this is kind of something that I feel a lot anyway. Whenever I go to a convention on my own, I really hate it. And I kind of feel a bit, why am I here? Like, why have I come to this? Like, does anyone care? Like, if I left right now, would anyone really care or give a damn? And it really gets to you. Like, it gets to me at least, because I'm like, I've never been amazing in social situations anyway. And conventions I have a love-hate relationship with. It's like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it could be a Comic Con, it could be a simple local event. There comes a point where if I'm on my own, I will genuinely think, does anyone care if I'm actually here or not? And it gets to you. It can be really soul-destroying. So anyway, that bout of depression was brought to you by Badnik Mechanic. Subscribe for more.
Okay. Delia's posted in the live stream chat. I heard you were in the credits in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Tell us your experience with that game.
Yes. So this is interesting. I will tell people I was a developer on that game, and yes, I was a developer on that game, and this is some general advice for anyone. If you ever get credited for anything, yes, you worked on that game, and yes, I did work on that video game. But for a period of time, myself and many other people, we were kind of hired to... It wasn't quite QA. Our official title was Balancing Team Heroes, and we were essentially brought in and we were asked to play the game, or the build of it at the time. And it was my first proper time working on an actual AAA game. Like, in the years since then, I've worked on other software engineering products, but it's not stuff that the public will have seen. Like, one example was I had to, this was at my university. The university would get actual contracts for big important stuff, and we were heavily monitored. On this stuff before it got released, but one of them was stuff like debugging the software that handles the UK's 999 emergency response handling system. So basically, if you call 911 and ask for an ambulance or whatever, basically the UK's version of that. So yeah, it was sort of a way to teach us about stuff whilst also giving us some actual work experience stuff. So that was some, that's kind of like what most software engineers work on. It's stuff that the public will never see or do. But the Racing Transformed was the first thing I ever did, which was like, this is something that the actual public will see and use and experience. And it was kind of a QA type role, but not really. We essentially was brought in and we were told, I probably should explain this. What actually happened on the first day? So we went in, we went through the usual, sign the NDAs, and then we got told to play. I want to say it was Project Gotham Racing 2 on the Xbox 360. I can't remember. I just know it was a driving game, and we were told to just play through the stage as quickly as we possibly could. And I said to them, I've never played an Xbox control game before. I'm going to be terrible at this. And they said, don't worry about it. Just play through it as best you can. And they said, okay, we'll put you on, go for easy difficulty when you play the game. But if you want to try normal, go right ahead. And I said, I'll go for normal because we were playing on PlayStation 3 dev kits and I had a PlayStation 3. So I knew I would be way better on Transformed than I was on Project Gotham Racing. And basically we were told you got to pick Sonic, and the reason was because the vast majority of people that play this game are going to pick Sonic as the starting character because that's what always happens. And we just want you to play through what was essentially story mode. It was basically all the tracks in order, and we want you to fill out this form explaining what you liked, what you didn't like. And initially, people were just putting stuff like, I want to see more references. I want to see more stuff, basically turning it into what they wanted to see. And then we realized what they were after was they kind of wanted us to say stuff like, how easy did you find it to drift around a corner? Were there any sections where the vehicle was hard to control? How easy was it to win a race? Did you feel that the AI was cheating you at all? Stuff like that. And once we kind of realized that's what they were after, that's what the mindset I got put in, because I literally didn't know what it was they really wanted me to do. And so basically I was playing the game as Sonic, driving around, and I was quite naughty. I found the game too easy, so I put it on hard difficulty, and I said, look, I'm going to do this on hard difficulty because I'm just winning every time on normal. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. So I put it on hard difficulty, and it was quite a challenge, but it wasn't too bad. I actually found it not too bad, and I did sort of pitch the idea, look, could you do like an all-stars difficulty level, which is way harder? And they laughed and said, we did have that originally, but we had to cancel it because so many people have come in to playtest the game and they just can't beat the first level.
Oh.
So yeah, Transformed was going to be even harder than it was originally, and I wanted it to be even harder, but they said no. So yeah, it was then basically we drive around and we just give feedback on how fair we found the game. Like, did it feel challenging or was it too easy? That kind of thing. And then it kind of evolved over the time we were there. Like, we started to become, in a weird sense, like beta testers or bug fixers or play testers for features. And we also got to try different builds of the game. Like, the one thing I do remember is all of a sudden they brought in a bunch of 3DSs and they said, we just got the multiplayer working. Who wants to try it? So for about 10 minutes, we were trying to connect all these 3DSs together to do some multiplayer. And I just remember there was one of the dev that we couldn't get it working. And I don't know who it was, but somebody shouted out from one of the rooms, I told you we king hate that build.
Oh, wow.
Oh my god! So
Wow.
people that say the 3DS version of Racing Transformed is weaker than the rest, yeah, that's because the devs hated working on it.
Oh, wow.
But no, it was great. Like, we got to test like the very early multiplayer modes of Transformed and just basically see how it worked. And did some very early bug testing on that. And there was a bug that I found in the game which got fixed before release. And I was quite pleased with that. And it was such a simple thing, and it was something that most people probably would never think of. We played on the dev kits with the controller connected with a wire, because obviously that would save them having to charge up the PS3 controllers and then have to recharge them. Anyway, I did sort of really well, and I yanked the controller, and the wire came out the USB port,
Oh no.
and it came up, and the game paused. The pause screen came up, but the game was still playing in the background.
Oh my.
And what I discovered was, if you played this build of the game, if you disconnected the controller whilst it was wired, it would trigger the pause screen, but it didn't actually pause the game. The game kept playing like it was like as if it was a multiplayer game. You know, this pause screen comes up, but the game still plays because obviously it's a multiplayer. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we didn't think to check that. Well done." So that was quite a major bug that I got fixed. I was quite pleased with that. But yeah, it was mainly we'd basically go around and try and make sure the game was as balanced as it was, like certain items as well. Were they balanced and did they work well, and was it fair to use? And there were a few things in the game which ironically still haven't been discovered to this day. Now, I am technically under an NDA for this game, but it should be okay to talk about right now. There was one item which got removed, and I'm so happy it wasn't in the final game because it was such a terrible item. Like, if this had been left in the game, it would have just tanked it in terms of reception because it was just so terrible. Like, it gave whoever used it such a ridiculous advantage. Like, I'm not going to go into details as to what it was, but it was one of the most unfair items they'd used. It was like if the blue shell from Mario Kart had a hardcore cousin that lived across the border that was smuggling contraband into wherever and had been doing it for years. It was that level of absurdist. Like, you could be winning a race by light years ahead of the person behind you, and if they used this item, there was nothing you could do. Like, you were gone. Like, it was worse than the yellow drill in Sonic Crossworlds. It was that level of absurdity. And they all sort of agreed that, yeah, this probably is going to get cut. And I'm so happy that got cut because it was just awful. Everybody hated it and it was just terrible. And there was other stuff as well. Like, it's kind of weird because whenever you talk about it, it feels like you didn't really do very much, but it's kind of because you were doing similar stuff, but over and over again in different ways. Like, you were constantly writing reports on your experience, what you found, what you discovered whilst you were playing. Like a big thing was the way the water physics handled on the early builds of the boats. Like, it was really rough, and there are still some elements in the game where this happens. I can't remember the precise stage. I want to say Billy Hatcher, but I don't think there was a Billy Hatcher stage in it now. There's like this section where you go through a transformed gate and you're in like this cave. It's like, I want to say there's ice on the walls or something, and for some reason the boats handle really badly in this one section, and it's in the final build of the game as well. And that kind of behavior was on every single water section. It was really difficult to control the boats, and it just really wasn't fun. And I know that did get changed and adjusted a lot as well. So yeah, it was mainly God, it sounds like I didn't really do a lot, but I genuinely did. Like, playing through the whole game with a certain characters, with certain parameters, like oh, don't use items this time, or yeah, you can use items, but don't use these items, or play using this kind of configuration, play on this difficulty using this character. It's stuff which it doesn't sound like much, but when you're doing it and you're kind of figuring out, is this fun? Does this work well? And then you've got to kind of transcribe that in a way that not only you can understand and articulate, but so a programmer who's getting this information and a game designer who is looking at that can also understand. Because quite often the programmers and the guys that were in charge of the AI, they were coming in and they were saying, yeah, who's Danny? So Danny would put his hand up and we're like, yeah, Danny, what do you mean by this section's whack? It's like the funny thing was they knew what he meant. Like the section wasn't fun, it wasn't good, but they couldn't really action. This was whack. So you kind of then was like, oh right, I get you now. I kind of understand what it is you want us to talk about. Like it's not just a case of saying the controls are sloppy, and this goes back to kind of why I do what I do with my videos, like really try to articulate why a game makes you feel the way it does, not just because it helps players understand why you feel that way, but it also helps developers understand as well. Like it like with Transformed, especially because it was a racing game, you had to really articulate how the handling of the cars felt in certain areas and why it wasn't fun or why it wasn't working the way you thought it should do. So just so they could compile all that and figure out, okay, is this a genuine issue or is it just an anomalous one person's experience kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like in our free time, we essentially became beta testers. Like we'd just play the game and just try and break it and figure out what we could do that we shouldn't do. You know, could we break stuff? Was there any modes that just didn't really work? And was this playable character functional or whatever? You know, that kind of thing. So we did a little bit of beta testing as well, and there were some really fun moments too. Like there was something that I got to see that so few people have ever seen, and I'm really lucky. I got to see the original pitch for the original Sonic All Stars Racing, and yeah, it's never been released anywhere. Now, I can talk about this because I know it was shown to a bunch of university students at Sheffield University, so I'm using that as my plausible deniability. My NDA is safe, guys. Keep the lawyers away. So, yeah, so the original pitch, in terms of graphical fidelity, think something like the original Tomb Raider, where if you look at the original Tomb Raider, you can sort of see that it's all made up of like tiles, like all the environments, they're like these square tiles. Well, that's what the track was like. It was like these really low res polygon square tiles, and Sonic was running. He wasn't in the car.
Oh wow.
And it was just this generic Green Hill course. Like it was just like the odd turn, the odd hill, and the footage that I saw, there was no other vehicles. It was just Sonic running. And then they showed me one of Sonic in the actual car, and it was like a really early version of it, and it was mainly to show how he handled and how he would move along this course, and just to show the proof of concept, really. And this was kind of the pitch that Sumo took to Sega, that Sega eventually greenlit, and that's why we have a pretty decent racing franchise now, which I guess technically Crossworlds is an evolution of that. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy that this pitch existed on a couple of PCs at Sumo Digital as these tiny little MP4 files that you could just play and watch. And it was like, my God, this is such an incredible bit of gaming history, and only me has seen it out of the entire Sonic fandom and a couple of university students at Sheffield University in 2006 or however many years ago it was.
Very interesting. Ooh, okay.
But yeah, oh sorry, the one big thing as well, the big thing that I always say about that is when you working at a game development studio for the first time, it is one hell of an eye opener. Like every single perception you have about what goes on at a game development studio is almost certainly wrong. And it's kind of funny because it's like you had all these like ideas as to what it's actually like, and when you actually see, for example, that no, it's not like that, you suddenly realize, my God, of course it's not like all my perceptions. What kind of an idiot was I for thinking that? And it is such an amazing eye-opener, and it really gets to you, like you really understand like what has to go into making a video game. And it's like goddamn amazing that we get video games at all, considering how difficult it must be to coordinate all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. looks like we have time for one more question, and this will be the final question. Um, what are your favorite Sonic collaborations that Sega has done? And it could be from, from this year or from previous years.
Oh God. Do you know? I'm not really sure. Yeah. Next question. I'm not. I'm honestly not really sure because like one person's cool stuff is another person's really lame stuff. Like every kind of collaboration, I think that even stuff which is really cool, I kind of think this is really cool, but why? Like like they did this like for the I think it was the 25th anniversary, they did this like fine art collaboration with all these artists that did all this amazing stuff and it looked fantastic. How much was it? £20,000 per piece. This is great. Who's buying it? And there's like you can say that about anything. There's like so much stuff which I think is really cool. I don't know if this is a real collaboration or not, and this is going to feel like such a cop out answer. Jack's Pacific.
Mm.
Like, can we just talk about how the fact that literally a few feet away from me is a display case and there is an action figure in there of Fan the Sniper, the Hard Boiled Heavies, and next to them is Omega the Robot, Nephilis the Dark, Neo Metal Sonic, and yet to go in is Trip and the Werehog. And it's like, how do we have action figures of these characters? Yeah, I
Oh.
really think Jack's Pacific have been absolutely killing it, and it is one, if not the best partnership Sega have done. Like, yeah, you can say, oh, Paramount's the best in terms of popularity and money making, but my God, in terms of like what you can now actually buy that's at a reasonable price and the scope of what's available, and yeah, there is certainly some criticisms about it. Jack's Pacific has been amazing, and there's other ones as well, like Jada Toys do those like mini metal figures, and I know people complain about them because the paint jobs aren't great when you look at them up close. When you've got those in a display case, that is an amazing collection of figures. It's just so good. Yeah,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. I'm probably going to think of some stuff later. Out of curiosity, what was the other question? Because you said there was another one.
Oh, wait.
If there was, or did I just dream that?
No, the one that I just asked you was like the last question.
All right, because I don't mind if there was another one. I'll try and answer that quickly. But what? Whatever.
Um, but but unfortunately, we will have to end this Q&A. It was very intriguing and interesting to to listen to your answers and getting some
Oh, it's
behind
fine.
the scenes stuff. That was very interesting. I'm just like, wow. Like in my head, I'm just like, wow. Like
Oh, it's
this is
fine. Yeah.
interesting.
For those listening, actually, if you don't know, like we started this panel for me in my time at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's now like 2 minutes to 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how I'm still awake at this point. But
Yeah, it's
this is
crazy.
another thing. This is another thing as well. Like the content creator question. If you get to the point where you can do content creation full time, your sleep schedule completely breaks. This is what happens. Like, I'm going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. This time next week, I guarantee you, I'll be going to bed at like 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning. And this cycle doesn't stop. And you can't get out of it. It's not healthy. Don't do it.
Oh, but of course, I will be announcing the other next episode of Got a Spotlight with Liaserenityrose, episode 40. And it's going to be Q&A with G to the next level, which this will be on September 18, 2025 at 4 p.m. PT, 7 p.m. ET. So be sure if you want to ask G to the next level questions about their content, please come tune in. And of course, don't forget, I think that's like the only other thing that's coming up right now because we do have the Sonic Racing Cross Worlds open network beta that's this week. So that's why there's really isn't anything going on for my content this week. So hopefully if you want to hopefully I'll be able to play the open network beta. So um if anything. But yeah, of course don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on that bell notifications for upcoming live streams and video content notifications. And of course I want to thank you, Badnik, um for doing this Q&A. I know
Oh,
it's
it's
like
fine.
3 in the morning for you on your end, but of course, thank you all for tuning in, and may you all full rest of your night or morning, depending on where you are. But may you all have a wonderful rest of your night or day. Bye, everyone.